Hey guys, if you haven't checked out our last week's episode with Tommy Lee, make sure you check it out right now, especially if you want a good laugh. This week, I share about my conversation with Pastor Josh. One of the things that brings us together is the love and admiration for our fathers. Pastor Josh lost his father when he was a teen, and I lost my dad when I was 30 years old. In this conversation, we will talk about the influences our dads had on our lives. If you are interested in listening to my story, or you're struggling with the loss of a loved one, you might want to check out my book that I wrote about my dad, which I will link in the description. Other than that, I hope you can sit back and relax as you see a different side of our pastor, and I hope you can enjoy this conversation as much as I do. All right, I'm going to call you Josh.
Okay.
Because we're not working right now. Is that fair?
It's up to you, man.
No, I just want to make sure you're good. So, hey, if you're listening, I have a special guest today. Some of y'all may know him as Pastor Josh, but today we're going to look at Josh, the man, not Pastor Josh. And, we're all human. And I think that a lot of us feel like we need to be a different person because of our jobs. But I wanted to hear from Josh, him and his relationship between him and his father and how that affected him as a pastor. And I know that's important to you.
Yes, yeah. I mean, thank you for having me, letting me join you and just kick back and talk and share a little bit about my dad. Looking forward to, sharing a little bit more about him.
And the other thing I just thought I'd share is I feel that I can have this conversation for you as we both have. It's very rare that two people can really adore their father and lose him and still have that void in their heart.
Yeah.
So that's why I did want to do this with you. I think it would be hard if I didn't have that perspective.
Yeah, no, I thank you. We definitely have that common bond, sharing love, for our dads and, them leaving us, all too early in life. Yeah.
Let me see if I can get the date. September 7th.
Yes. You got it.
See? so I try. I do
a couple of days off last time.
I know. It's 6, 7, or 8.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate it.
And you were 18?
Yeah, I was 17.
17.
Yeah.
All right. So this is not about you and your role as CCC. I just want to make sure this is. So don't criticize Josh for what he said. This is him as a person.
Yeah.
So, anyways, maybe we could just start a little bit about you growing up and then how your relationship with your dad.
Yeah. So I mean, as a lot of immigrant stories go, my mother and father were the first from their respective families from South Korea to come to the United States, and my dad was already a pastor. He went to seminary in Korea, but he came actually to America and he was studying professional vocals, so classical singing. So I like to think that's where I get, some of, my talent from. Of course, everything's God-given.
Your wife would agree.
Well, yeah. She saw me before I met her on an old YouTube video that I made with my friends. But yeah, so my mom and dad, they immigrated into Chicago, Illinois, and that's where my older brother, 1 year older than me, named Daniel, he was born almost pretty much when they got here. And so he was the firstborn there. And then I was born a year later in April. And I think growing up in Chicago, it was, for the longest time, my older brother and me, just 1 year apart, and we did everything together. And what I remember about my dad is just a lot of fond memories of him playing together with us.
Okay, stop
Sure.
real quick. I want to real quick. What's his name?
True.
Where was he born? How did he become? I'll try to get the whole picture.
Yeah. So March 22nd is his birthday.
What year?
That I don't even know my mom's year. I just know that I just know their birthday.
Okay, so I'm assuming post Korean War. Was he during the Korean War or?
No. After.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad was 48 when he passed, and I was 17.
And what made him want to become a pastor in Korea? What was his kind of story?
So you know what? Sadly, I never really, because I was 17 when my dad passed away. Mm-hmm. So I never really. That's one of the things I actually kind of miss out on most.
Yeah.
Is just the conversations that we could have had about ministry, especially being a pastor now for for a while now. You know, if I ever run into anything ministry wise, I would love to just be able to call my dad and be like, Appa, you know, this is what's happening. What do you think? And just to pray together with him and talk together with him. But I guess growing up, I never really, it was kind of like I knew my dad was a pastor. I saw him preach. You know, he studied the Bible. He prepared for sermons. He met with people. But yeah, his name is Kyuhyun Cho, or in Korean, Cho Kyuhyun, 목사님. And it sounds like, you know, mokshi, right? Moksa. That's in Korean.
I don't know what these words
that's
mean.
yeah. Well, mokshi in Cantonese is pastor.
Moxie.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
mokshi.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Right, I thought you said mochi.
No, I like mochi, but so moksa or moksa님 in Korean means reverend.
I know Jungno Sunny.
Yeah, 전도사님.
What's
Yeah,
that?
that's not quite reverend.
Oh, it's below. It's like a pastor, not reverend.
Yeah. You
Something
know
like that.
Koreans and their hierarchy, right?
I know that
전도사님 is not 목사님.
I know that I'm below everyone. That's all I know.
Well, that's how we should all you know, be, right? Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
the Korean abuses. I got it.
So I think so his name is Reverend Kyu Hyun Cho. I just called him Appa, of course. My mom's name is Eun Kyung Cho, and she's still alive. She survived, you know, my brothers and I, yeah, she's been on her own, you know, since my dad passed. You know, now
over 20 years.
Yeah, over 20 years.
22
ago.
years, 23 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But God is good.
So,
you know? Yeah.
was he a pastor in Korea?
So he was,
And-
so he did pastoral ministry in Korea, and then he came to America to study classical singing.
What-
So
Was he trained? I'm trying to understand real quick,
Yeah.
because like in Kenya,
yeah,
you got quote unquote pastors, but they don't have the actual seminary.
yeah.
Like
so
it's
he
like
went
a
to-
late.
he went to
So he's
seminary and
actually a
part of the
trained.
church. Yeah.
So he's official pastor, like legit.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and so when he was so for me growing up, one thing that I remember very clearly is, so visitation. I know you love to do visitation too and go and visit people, right? So in the Korean church culture, pastors visiting people's homes and like sharing a meal and like ministering to them, like that's kind of part of the culture. So my older brother and I mean, we had to tag along with everything, right? So that's one of the things I'm actually fondly remember is we'd always wonder like, oh, whose house are we gonna go to today, or like
What kind of
this
we're
week?
going to eat?
Yes. So there was always like good food, like bulgogi, because you know they want to do.
They want to
job
impress
for
the pastor. Yes, I
you know, and serve the pastor.
They give you Bacchus D.
Okay, dude, I can't believe you brought that up because
I'm kidding.
when I was a kid, that was like legit low key my favorite drink.
No energy drink. It's the
And I
first
didn't
energy
even
drink.
know it was an energy drink.
I know. I drink too many.
It tastes so good.
I know.
though. Yeah.
Let me rewind real quick. So, how did he come to America? Was it on a visa? Like, was it church sponsored? How does that work?
Yeah, so I think when they came over, you could just come and then live here and get a job. And he went to school, right, for the classical singing. But
Is that like a student visa?
I don't know if he came on a visa, but I do know that like my mom got her citizenship much later. Yeah.
So, what made him want to come to America?
So part of it is the schooling, but I do think that both of them also wanted to like once we have kids, you know, they
better
have
life?
kids. Yeah, have a life here in America.
Okay.
I think there was some thought about maybe going back at some point, but I think once like my older brother and I got into school,
Gotcha.
you know, making friends and living here. Yeah.
So there wasn't
they
like
stayed
a
here.
so there wasn't like a sponsor in America that brought him like a church or a job. He just came out of faith. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, really, really came on faith, and then he started a church.
Why Chicago?
Yeah, that I have no
He
idea.
wanted to go to.
Well, you know what I think it is, because you know what I think it is.
Yeah.
It's you know, Korean immigration. They have like kind of certain spots and fluctuations of like where Koreans met together. So I think there was already a good Korean community based in Chicago, so that when he came, it's like there's already some kind of a bit of a support network.
What year is this when he came?
Well, my older brother was born in '82. Yeah, so right, it had to be that year.
Okay.
Or like right before, because he was born in January.
Okay, so Chicago's spot. L.A. was a lot of Koreans.
So yeah, LA's got a lot of Koreans. I mean,
Annandale.
well, yeah,
Or spot.
or even just like Georgia, there's a lot of
Okay.
Koreans. Like so, there are different spots, but yeah. So he came to Chicago. Yeah, he wasn't escaping any kind of war or anything like that. But they just made a decision to come, and I think it was hard for them. You know, I talk with my mom now about when they came over, like, and there's so many things that I've learned. Obviously, that you have to really kind of just be thankful for, especially the immigration generation, like first generation, because like seriously coming with like little to no English and starting a new life like in a foreign land, um, that's not easy.
Takes balls.
Yeah, it has a lot of obstacles. So even the fact that both of them were the first from their respective families to come,
Let me
I
say
think
this.
it means a lot, right?
It's also harder, I assume, if you're a pastor. Like if you had a skill that could make money,
Oh yeah, sure.
you know, like electrician or you
Hey,
know,
some pastors are too skilled at making money nowadays, but not for the best reasons.
yeah. But that requires more faith that you don't have a very practical vocation. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
like you can't come and be a mechanic or something like that. But well, I mean, that's why like there is kind of some stereotype. But a lot of Korean first generation immigrants, like they opened up very like practical things like dry cleaners, restaurants, and
Liquor stores.
like jewelry stores, like, and a lot of times working in the urban areas, right? So that's, I think, one big reason Chicago was a destination for many is because you could start work there, and then actually it's funny because in Chicago, Koreatown, there's this whole drive, which is the capital of South Korea, but there's no Koreans there because the first generation worked so hard to make money for their families to get them out of the urban area, and now they're living like in the northern suburbs of.
I don't blame them. I heard it's rough.
It can be. I still remember my mom one time when I was helping work at a store in Chicago. So she was working, part time there, and I saw her get mugged literally right in front of my face when I was a kid. Like some guy just snatched her bag, but my mom was, she's a very strong woman. She didn't let go. And so the guy just took her with him.
Maybe she was poor. She didn't want to let go.
Yeah, but she held on, and then she had scratches on her face and a little like minor injuries, but she held on to the bag, and the other guy just ran away. So Chicago can definitely be rough, but it definitely was home. I still consider Chicago my hometown, and
It's Aaron and Rodgers' hometown too. Hey, real quick, so just you brought it. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah.
Koreans have more business than any other ethnic group per person in America.
did not
One
know
out of this was in 2007 when I read this.
yeah.
1 out of 8 Koreans own their own business.
Wow.
Something like that. So whatever your dad does or your people, it's not just your dad. Like a lot of people have that spirit.
yeah, entrepreneurial and kind of being bold to go out and take
And they always
some
do well in
risks.
school.
Okay, yeah, I mean but that's Chinese people too.
No, Koreans are better. Some of these Fuganese people aren't very good at school. These restaurant worker kids. Okay, yeah. So your dad came here.
Yeah.
Did he start a church immediately? Did he work for another church? That's got to be really hard. How did it work?
So from my memory, right? So this is kind of me jogging my memory too. So I'm like 40 now. It's crazy. So this is now long while back, 30 plus years ago, right? But he worked as a assistant or associate pastor at a couple different churches, bigger Korean churches. And I also remember while he was doing his classical singing, schoolwork, he also was like a conductor for a couple big church choirs. So he was involved in the musical aspect. Excuse me. And then he set out to start his own church, which was Hosanna Evangelical Church. And it was part of a Korean evangelical church denomination. So it's a smaller Korean denomination, but my dad also was the president of that denomination for quite a few years as well. But also another fond memory I have of my dad, actually, that maybe not a lot of people know, is he started a radio station. So from scratch, right? He started a radio station called Korean Christian Broadcasting System.
Is this AM?
No.
FM?
He actually got on FM.
Because the bad Christian stations are AM.
Yeah, so he actually got on FM bandwidth.
Must have had a lot of Koreans to work.
And he was just very good at what he does. Like, he's good at working with people and within organizations and really taking the lead on things. So he started this KCBS is what you'd call it, and he brought on speakers. He shared church sermons from different churches on the airwaves.
Was this for money or was this out of just a heart for God?
I think it's just hard for God. I haven't.
Was he a salary position?
So when I'm that little, I would.
You think you got money from it? Because you get advertisement.
So, but I mean, we lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Chicago.
Maybe you just needed. Maybe he's just that tight. I don't know.
Yeah, but he did a lot, with that, and So he was like very well known in the Korean Christian community.
So he got a good jump on things. You telling me he hit the ground running? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, so I think like when God put something on his heart, he was able to just kind of go and do it, and God really blessed that, and I think blessed his heart, like of wanting to serve God in different ways. So this was pretty far-reaching, and it's interesting. I actually met someone who's a little bit younger than me, but he said his mom actually worked at KCBS, and then no, seriously, and then he was like, "Wait, who's your dad?" And I was like, "Reverend Kyu Hyun Cho," and then he's like, "Dude, there's got to be like one KCBS, right?" And then long after my dad passed, or after my dad passed, the people who were running it ended up going to AM because I guess they couldn't keep it going. And he actually texted his mom. He's like, "Hey, do you remember Cho Kyu-hyun 목사님?" which is like Reverend Kyu-hyun Cho. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." So it's like little things like that, It's
of course,
reminders of my dad.
Absolutely.
And, just yeah. I mean, and before he passed away, actually, he had started a TV station.
Let me ask a question. Was he a DJ there? Did he do like, "Hey, we'll be back in a few minutes"? Like, was he actually, or was he just?
So I did hear his voice on the radio, but he was mostly also like just running things. But he was definitely on there. And then when he did the KCTV, which is Korean Christian Television, so he had that going. So he would do interviews with different like prominent pastors, Korean pastors, even like pastors from Korea would come, and he would like interview them.
Sounds like he really is more than a pastor. He's more of a Christian entrepreneur.
I mean, he
Christian mogul.
He did a lot of things, and I think I didn't fully appreciate like how much work and capacity he had for serving and like doing ministry works until like I was older, and I'm like, he really did a lot of things. And I'm not to fast forward too much, but I think when my dad, people would like introduce him, and especially like around the time when he got sick, and more people were kind of coming to visit and kind of pay their respects and check in on him. So many of them told me like just stories or things that people would say about my dad. And one of the things that is kind of funny is they would say, if you don't know who Reverend Kyu Hyun Cho is, they're probably a North Korean spy.
Okay.
Because he's so well known in the Korean Christian community that if you don't know him, then something's off.
It also sounds like you better behave. Or I'll talk to your father. I'll tell your dad. Let's go back to when you were a kid. Tell me about like, because I want to talk about a little bit about maybe growing up, and then maybe you could talk about like when he got sick and your last memories, and then maybe your legacy. His legacy is you're a pastor too. But tell me about some of the early stories. You say you're going around doing visitation, giving free food.
Yeah. So I mean, there would always be the kids table, and then the adults are
sitting on the floor.
Yeah, but everyone was sitting on the floor though, right? Yeah. That's a kind of a
still
thing too. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anymore. I guess
not with my back.
Yeah.
Not with your back. You don't sit on the floor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So they I remember those times following, and there were kind of like select families that we'd be excited about, like, all right, we get to go to their house, this.
They got Sega. Is that what you're thinking? Oh man, I love that guy's house. He got all the video games. Can we go back?
They had a game called Shinobi.
Yeah, Ninja.
Yeah,
gotcha. Ninja Stars.
Yeah, Ninja Stars. That was like
Nintendo.
That was the game. That was the game to play.
So you do visitation
with my dad.
You ever get in a fight with kids there? As a pastor kid, like, I hate that kid.
I don't know. I think we were like really just good kids that didn't really get into too many fights. The only drama that I ever caused was one time like an adult like said something really mean, and then I like talked back. So like that was like about the gist of how much trouble I made is I talked back and kind of defended my honor once, like to an adult. But yeah, I mean, so my dad he was a pretty busy guy. I mean, I named some of the things that he was starting and getting involved with, but
you had to be good because the culture is very strong. Am I correct? Like, it's unusual to be a naughty boy and your pastor's a dad.
Well, I think like there's definitely an expectation because your kids become a model for the other kids.
Yeah.
And you want
don't embarrass.
You don't embarrass your father or your family. But to be honest, my brother and I, we really didn't think on that or feel pressure to that.
You're a good boy, huh?
Yeah, we would just listen and, like serve where we could, even at a young age.
Let me just interrupt you and share my story.
Yeah.
I was a bad kid.
Yeah, I know you were bad.
A little naughty. You know I went to Korea?
You went to Korea?
Yeah.
So wait, what? You never told me.
Don't worry. So I just let you know, like, I know Koreans, how they are. Yeah, and I'm not Korean. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of stories of there will be some Korean American kids that went to Korea. And this is not recent, but
they get whipped.
So they would talk in English, and a random Korean older guy would come and like smack them.
Yeah, yeah, I
And be
believe
like,
it.
hey, we're in Korea. I'm
So
like, oh my gosh! When I hear those stories, I'm like, that is extreme.
I'm not too far from that. So I went to a hot spa,
Uh-huh.
and I was bored, so we started wrestling in the one of those bathhouses.
Yeah. Well, what happened?
I busted the kid's nose. His nose started bleeding in the hot tub.
Oh my gosh!
So the owner or whatever punished us. You know how you're supposed to be naked.
Yeah,
This is
it's
all new experience to me. Like, where's the pool? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So he made us stand naked at the doorway, holding buckets of water when people
Are
passed.
you serious, dude? That's not good. Wait, when you were younger?
Like 1996,
What were
97.
you doing in Korea?
Taekwondo
so far?
stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, anyways, just
my
side note, just to let you know, I'm familiar with
Yeah, you're probably
Korean-
more familiar. I mean, if you went through that, kind of
standing
stuff.
naked at the doorway and just smirking.
Oh my gosh, dude! I would have been like, I'm out of here. I would have run away.
I was so used to getting in trouble, I didn't even care. I'm a little naughty boy, but just to let you know, I'm familiar with the Korean culture, Taekwondo, and Korean churches.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, discipline and character are definitely very highly
Behavior.
Yeah, valued and taught.
Legalism. Sorry, not legalism. Behavior.
Well, I mean, again, every heart it can turn to legalism if it's too much focused on behavior.
All
For
right.
sure.
So, anything else you remember from your dad as a kid?
Yeah. I remember like trips we took. So a lot of times when we took trips, they were in conjunction with like a pastor's conference or something. But sometimes they'd be in like really cool places. One of my fondest memories is so my little brother wasn't born yet. So I have two brothers actually. One
Yeah.
year older, Daniel, and then one younger brother, 10 years younger.
He's
named
a teacher.
Paul. Yeah, and he teaches in Chicago. And I remember this one Florida trip where there weren't really as many like driving laws back then, where in terms of like everyone needs to wear a seatbelt and all that kind of stuff.
You're bouncing around.
Yeah, so we had a station wagon, and you just put the back seat down. It's just like you're laying down. It's like really
fun.
cool. Yeah, it's fun. Of
course.
And so my older brother just being in the back, and my dad drove the whole way from Chicago all the way to Florida, and that's one of my most memorable trips. Just hanging out with him, and going to do Disney and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I don't know. Like I know a lot of pastors' kids, they have a lot of trauma. They can because of some of the things we talked about. A lot of expectation or hurts from the church because their father's a pastor, or just like maybe not feeling loved. By
The term is PK.
yeah, PK or MK, like missionary kid.
They don't do well. PKs.
Yeah,
It's a
some-
reputation.
a lot of times, yeah, sadly, because of the parents' strong commitment to church, but sometimes neglect of family at home.
Well, I thought they
it
probably
can lead
force
to
feed
that.
Christianity, shove it down your throat.
Yeah.
It can be rebellious.
So yes, I think sometimes it's like that, and like you said, sometimes it becomes more behavior oriented. But my dad really did a good job, I think, even though he's like first generation Korean. I don't think all first generation parents are like that, but
No, definitely not.
he really took time always to show me and my brother that like we were loved.
No, he must have been one of them good pastors.
Yeah, I would. I mean,
I went to a church
Yeah.
in college that was Korean. They like verbally abuse you on stage, like the head pastor, like that kind of stuff. So I'm familiar with like,
you went to the wrong churches, man.
well, I actually got kicked out because I wasn't complying. Not to say I'm like over dramatic, but I know how it can be that they had a head pastor and they had like a whole pastor's conference.
Yeah.
And the pastor spoke too long and he brought him back up on stage and he yelled at him and made him
In
apologize.
front of everyone.
Yeah, and made him like grovel. Like, we're so
my
sorry.
goodness.
Like that's kind of my experience in
Yeah.
Korean churches.
Man, so I mean,
So you're lucky.
thank God for His grace that you're still
No, everyone left.
a believer and you're still that didn't mess you up.
Everyone in the group
Yeah.
fell away because they felt like they couldn't handle the peer pressure, the legalism,
Yeah,
but
that's really
toxicity.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I was very blessed to be able to actually see a model of a pastor who does work hard for the Lord, like in the church, like starting new things for ministries and serving. But at the same time, with my mom, always showing love, and then with me and my older brother.
So you didn't feel like your dad was a hypocrite, like probably some people do.
Yeah, like I never really saw or heard my father do anything that would make me question like God's character. And this is not just to like
Or his integrity.
protect him or like because we're like talking here and people are gonna hear this, but just genuinely, man, like, and that's why, like, if I was super hurt, by
You wouldn't be a
him-
pastor.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It would probably be a pretty big deterrent in me going
You'd be
into
rich.
ministry.
You'd be rich if you were a rebel.
Sometimes I think, I could have definitely gotten into some other things that
I'm sure.
in
I
life,
definitely think your brain is fast based on war games.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I have, and my dad jokes, very quick-witted, right, with dad jokes.
So you
but-
never, like my father,
Yeah.
when he got older, he started dropping F-bombs. And I'm like, oh my God. So you guess you didn't have that experience. Like you didn't see the other side of your dad.
Yeah, well, yeah, so
Maybe it was there, but you didn't see it.
I never heard him curse, say a bad word about anyone or anything. Like, I mean, obviously being part of a church and ministry, the truth is pastors can be hurt a lot by, when pastors trust their church members and they befriend them, and then
Of course.
something happens where a church member might turn their back or
Don't take
like
it
do
personally,
something.
but
Yeah.
but they do.
Yeah. And but that's really hard in ministry when someone you like pour out into and you care for and love turns around and does something that really is kind of like betrayal.
It's inevitable. That's part of the game.
I hope not. I haven't necessarily felt that, in my time in ministry.
I'm sure your older pastor will be like, just wait, Josh. It'll happen.
Yeah, see,
I'm sure they'll say the same
maybe
thing.
if my dad was, still alive,
Don't
he'd
worry,
be
man.
like, I'm praying for you, but hey,
It'll happen.
expect it
Yeah,
at
expect
some
it.
point.
Now, just side note for me as a bad boy, did you ever feel like, come on, Dad, can't we play Mortal Kombat? Like, can't we watch a rated R movie? Like, why you gotta why can't I do what the other kids are doing? Was that an issue?
So, that's a very good question because I'm trying to think in terms of like discipline and things like that, or like rules. I do remember complaining because I'm a pastor's kid and I'm a good pastor's kid. We had Friday night service and, obviously Sunday worship service. But Friday night is like the key time when all the friends hang out.
Is that prayer night?
Yeah,
Friday
so
night?
it's literally like a prayer night.
Oh,
So
God.
there's a message and everything, and then an elongated prayer. And so I do remember being like, "Oh my, like it's not even in the Bible that you have to go to church."
That's really-
So I would kind of like bring up like little arguments like that. But you know what? I'll tell you this much: like, I really wanted to hang out with my friends, especially when it was like New Year's Eve.
Heck yeah.
So we'd have like a New Year's Eve service every year. So my friends would always be like, "Hey, Cho, like you're gonna come hang out with us for New Year's?"
What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, and then I'd be like, "No, I'm going to church," with my family, and they'd be like, "Dude, what again?" And I'm
It's
like,
not even Sunday. Like what?
"Yeah."
I
So
know.
I would, but I learned a lot from that. Just you're not always meant to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it.
You're a good boy, huh?
Yeah, and part of it, like there was some resentment at times, but at the end of the day, like some of those times that I prayed, in those like in the sanctuary on those late Friday nights, they really helped, I think, to build character and like kind of build like a habit of prayer.
Maybe you should have been named Samuel. You're like a little good apprentice. Is that what you're
Hey,
saying?
Joshua was good too, man.
But he's older, was he?
Yeah, he was a little bit older. Yeah. But he was the spy, with Caleb that didn't cower in fear.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
why-
was using prayer analogy of
Yeah,
Samuel
yeah.
praying at night.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think I look back on it with thankfulness. And who knows what kind of trouble I would have gotten into on those
Just a
Friday
thought.
nights.
Side note, this is purely my Bible trivia.
Yeah.
My own Bible inquisitiveness. The only person I can think in the Bible that did not have a flaw that's a major character is Joshua. Now I don't count the prophets because I don't know about their personal life.
Sure.
But I always thought that, let's just say if you would go with that logic, the reason why he didn't have a flaw because he was mentored by Moses. He was able to avoid mistakes. Is that would you agree with that?
I would say Joshua. I mean, he was flawed in that he didn't totally wipe out.
Well, no one's perfect.
Well, yeah. So I mean, so not perfect.
There wasn't a moral story like see that guy.
Yeah.
Was
So
there?
he didn't like have any huge moral failures, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I would say. But I don't know if it's necessarily by mentorship, but there was an understanding of devotion to God.
Let's just say
Like
this.
that's the mark, right? Even Moses, he failed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in ways where it's like he was punished, right? I mean, there were consequences.
He also was tired.
Yeah.
Tired of all the drama.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine coming down from, the mountain with tablets that God has just given you and seeing him like parting it up with a golden
We're
calf.
going to need more rules, God.
Yeah.
We're gonna need-
Hey, God, we need 11 through 20 when I come back up.
all right, just curious. My side note. I don't know if you agree with my way of thinking, but I think
yeah.
Joshua was I don't see any faults with his character based on what little I know.
I do know that mentorship is very important to you too.
And I think that was his gift. Moses' gift to him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said of what you can transfer, share, especially in your own experience. I mean, think about what Moses went through, and like he saw God moving in
I feel bad for the poor guy.
miraculous ways, and he got to be a part of that. I think there's no way that does not affect you so deeply that when you pass that on to someone else, that they're just like, whoa.
Because the end of Joshua is good. It's a good ending.
Always.
Well, just Joshua, not the next book, which is sorry,
Judges.
Judges. Yeah, that's a bad.
Yeah,
ending.
Judges. It doesn't have an end. It just cycles. Mistake.
All right,
cry out. Judge. Mistake. Cry out.
So my
judge.
point is, you were like a good boy. You're like Joshua and Samuel. You learned from your father.
Yes.
There wasn't any resentment on your dad.
Yeah, there really wasn't.
Lucky.
I mean, were there times I wanted to like rebel? Sure, but I'm very thankful for my dad's like.
How about your brothers?
No, I mean same thing. I mean, my little brother was 7 when my dad passed away.
So your older brother was not rebellious.
No, like I think if anything, I was a little bit more rebellious than him, but like he's barely rebellious too.
Dang, that's lucky, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's every family's different and everyone has their own journeys. But I think for my older brother and me, we never like veered off in resentment towards a pastor dad. Like we were very respectful of our father, and we knew that he loved us. So it was a good family. Like I'm thankful to God. I just wish we had more than 17 years.
Of course, absolutely.
Years,
It would be my thought
48.
that it could have easily been a resentment in terms of, Dad, why don't we have more money?
Yeah, but that's the thing too. Look, so one of the things I remember is
What can I have,
on
Jordans?
Christmas we got like one present to share, like my older brother and I. Like we get like one Nintendo game, and then we would just play that game to death.
Break within 3 days.
TV, and we didn't really complain. Like we had friends who had more stuff, but that's one of the things I think like God really blessed us, and we were very content. Like we weren't like, Appa, why don't we have this? Appa, why don't we have that? Like we had a TV.
All right. I'll do another message on tithing, son. we're gonna get that gift you want. We'll put this in the prayer bulletin. My son needs a bike. Pray for him. Pray that Santa gives him a bike this year. I'm sure that could happen though. Other pastors.
Well, I'm sure there's some manipulation that people can do, but like I was never left wanting. Like legitimately. Like, there's never a time when I felt like we didn't have enough. But I think that part of that was because we had such a good family dynamic, right? Like, our relationship was good relationship within the family between father and sons, and then also, mother and sons, and then father and mother. So it kind of went just around like that.
That's got to be special. Not that common.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very thankful for it, And who knows, like, maybe if my dad was still around and we got to talk more, maybe I would see and he'd share a little bit more of his flaws, and we can like work through those things together. But at least the time that we had, I mean,
it's funny.
Wasn't anything like that.
Just a thought that popped up.
Yeah.
Maybe if your father was older, you might not be a pastor. I'll give you an example. My father said to me, "Don't ever be a dentist," because maybe if he was older, you could say, "Oh man, it's tough." Like he might share those things.
Well, I mean, so 48. Like, so I'm 40, and I've already been in ministry like over 10 years, like 15 years or something like that now. So he definitely had been in ministry for a while. But the thing is, he never actually pressured us to do anything. So that's another anomaly a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
Like where he never once asked me, hey, do you want to be a pastor? Like even throughout my years, so I was 17, that was through high school when I'm really considering career and things like that. But God had always kind of put that on my heart about ministry. But I got to see it like a good, healthy pastor, like doing ministry through my dad. So, he when he passed away, he actually didn't know that I would go on to be a full-time pastor.
Well, no, you didn't either. Yeah. You didn't know.
So
you want to be a dentist.
Well, maybe. Dentist, doctor, something. Like, so I was doing all kinds of volunteer work, all kinds of special programs and things like that to prepare me for in the health field.
You were a biology major.
Yeah, bio major. Yeah, and but I kind of wish I, like I kind of envision like, so, when you lose your dad, I know, and for you maybe it's similar, is when you have different milestones in your life, those are times when you really feel like you wish you could share
Absolutely,
that,
100%. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We went to watch a movie,
Yeah.
and it was called Creed. At the end of the movie, the main character takes his baby and brings it to the tombstone and says, "This is my grandfather." We're all leaving, and then Edward goes, he sees me crying,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Why are you crying, Garrett?" And I realized that my child will never meet his father.
Yeah.
So that's like an example of a milestone. Like you wish your dad was there for your wedding or your first child.
100%. Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
Or I wish my dad was here to talk to me when my wife is chewing me out. He's like, "Don't worry, son. That's how women are." I believe it. Like you need those talks, right?
No, he'd probably be like, "Son, just show her love.
The son
Care
just
for her."
when they no, my father said when they cross their arms, just run. That's what he told me. Trouble's coming. So anything else as a childhood that stands out? It sounds like you had a great relationship. You conformed. You didn't see the negative, and not just you, your whole family.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing negative,
Man. Yeah. I mean,
which is awesome.
yeah. I think everything was very, very good. Yeah. I think maybe if my little brother shared a little bit, like he was just too young when my dad passed. So the things that he remembers of my dad are mostly things that like we've imparted to him and shared with him. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the big things too when my dad passed away was I felt in me that I needed to step up and really be like a father figure
To your younger
my
brother,
younger brother who's 10 years younger.
and you're still that way.
I try to be, but also, there's always that line where he is my brother and he's an adult now. So, I realize that sometimes I'm being too father figure, but he just needs his older bro, to
Of course, absolutely, 100%.
So that's an interesting dynamic that happened, because, my dad passed. But, I love taking care of my little
note,
brother.
It's not weird to me because when my dad passed, I started being more parental to the kids. So I don't think it's the same thing, but I'm saying that I changed when my dad died.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about when your dad you're a little older now, and you started realizing your dad was sick or something wasn't.
Sure.
Did your parents hide it from you?
Yeah. So,
or did you kind of see something was going on before they said it?
you know what's so weird is, like, I'm pretty perceptive.
Yeah.
I feel, and I kind of know when, in Korean it's like nunchi, like something's going on, like you kind of have an idea. Man, when my dad got sick, it felt like it was out of nowhere.
So there was no, like, how did he know he was sick?
So this is what happened, like, legitimately, is one morning my dad wakes up just like any other morning. I think it was a Saturday. And he's like, "Puyona, Singyana," which is my name is Puhyun in Korean, Cho Puhyun. And my older brother's name is Seunghyun. And he called us over. He's just like, "Hey, like, I need to go to the hospital. Can you help me get up?"
And he's not a faker,
No.
so it's legit.
No. So, but that's why I was so confused.
Do you think he knew something was wrong way before he told you all, and he was just hiding it?
Look, he passed away of gastric cancer. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so he had gastric cancer. There's no way that he did not have pain.
So he was hiding it.
So I think he didn't want to burden our family by letting us know that he's in such immense pain.
Do you think he was seeing a doctor before?
I doubt it. So this is what happened is he wakes up and he calls us over and we're carrying him down. Like, we're like, what the, like, I'm like, "Appa, are you pretending? Like you said, like, are you serious?" Because he was putting his entire body
And
weight.
you look up to him.
Of course.
So that's why it's like
this is it was very weird.
I believe it.
Right. And I mean, he wasn't like a bodybuilder like your dad.
But he was a macho guy.
But he was a
Because you
strong
told me
Korean guy.
You say you like boxing.
Yeah, he loved boxing.
So that means
he was in the military and he was part of the special troops. He's shooting out of planes and
So he,
parachutes and stuff.
lack of better word, he wasn't a pussy.
Whoa.
But he was a
Language, come on, man.
Sorry.
Come on, dude.
That's not Josh. That's my way of interpreting.
Yeah.
He wasn't a pansy.
He knew how to take care of himself, and I think he he probably wanted to protect the family from his pain.
Absolutely,
And
100%.
that's probably a fault too, where it's like,
It's a
if he
noble
told
fault.
us,
It's a noble fault.
yeah, if he told us early enough, maybe they could have found something. But this is how it went. So the reason that he couldn't get up, so went to the hospital, did testing and everything, and of course I'm the one who gets the call from the doctor. I don't know why I'm a kid still, like I'm like 16, 17. The doctor calls and tells me, instead of being like, "Hey, is your mom home?"
Does your mom speak English?
Yeah, I mean she's fluent. She worked at the post office for many years. But he tells me, your dad, like we checked near his head, and we found something near his head.
So it's spread out like stage 3 or 4 is what you're saying.
Yeah, and so there was a tumor that was so big near his
Spine.
brain,
Okay.
right, where it was affecting his motor ability.
I believe it. 100%.
And so that's why he couldn't get up and move his legs and things like that. And so they did a full removal of the tumor. Then they gave him radiation therapy. All along this time, still, it does not cross my mind that he could pass away. No, like I was so naive to thinking that my dad could actually die. And so they do all that, but then they do more tests. And then that's when they tell us it started in your stomach, gastric cancer, and it spread all the way.
Did your mom know the severity? Even though you were naive, was she fully aware?
So you know what's really weird, man? Like when I was 17, I used to think that I was like, I'm an adult. Like I know what's going on and all this stuff. But I never fully accepted or like questioned further if he was really that sick. Really. Like I kind of like just went through, and he was at the hospital, he would get different treatments and things, but like never did it cross my mind or heart that we were going to lose my dad.
How long? So, do you remember the day that, like, what part of the year was it when he got when you had to take him to the hospital? When was that?
Yeah. See that dude, man, it's kind of a blur.
It's a blur.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a blur because I know that it was warm, you know, like, so maybe springish, summerish.
So I guess some question is from
When we got it, yeah.
and then when the surgery happened, how long was that?
Well, the surgery was right away.
Okay.
Because they found it. They're like, we got to get rid of this thing, do radiation.
So how long you feel like you were in a period of naivety?
Honestly, until I got the phone call that my dad passed away.
And how long was that? For half a year?
It's got to be something like that. No, it wasn't too much time.
Because at that point,
it was enough to where I remember we took my older brother to school in Indiana, and my dad was like, he was much sicker at the time, but again, didn't cross my mind that he could pass away. But I know that he was getting thinner, he was getting treatment and stuff like that. But he came with us because he's like, I gotta go, I want to see him off.
I think he realized, in my opinion,
that it might have been,
if I'm going to die, I need to leave with a positive memory.
I think there's probably some aspect of that, where if he knows, even though we don't really know, that this might be the last few times he's able to do these things, then of course. But I think he would have done it anyway, but it probably held even more
You got to make it count.
imperative,
Yeah.
And, I think he did do that, with my older brother and me, where we had some heart-to-hearts, even though I didn't think he was going to pass away. Like, one of the things that will always ring true in my mind, he said, I don't have any regrets in life. This is me sitting across from him, just as far as you are from me right now at the table. And we're sitting on his bed, in his bedroom. And he's like, I don't have any regrets. The only thing, if I had one, is that I didn't spend more time, even more time with you, your brothers, and your mom. And I think about that, and it's like all the times that I had with my dad are so good and memorable, but I do think, man, I wish we had even more, like,
Yeah,
just,
of course.
and like we talked a little bit briefly about just when you have milestones and things, like, when Esther and I got married, one thing that I was sad about is that she never got to meet him. She knows of him because I share about him with her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but even at our wedding, we had like a little white flower, like white rose, in his place, just to remember that he's my dad and to honor him.
I would say that part of the trouble
Yeah.
is because back then y'all didn't have these cell phones. You couldn't capture
I
everything.
think
Like,
about that all the
and
time.
like if you were as now, you like I got it all documented.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wish I
mean,
did more.
Yeah, we had film.
VHS.
Yeah, yeah, film, and I used to carry around the little digital camera, but that was already after he had passed away. So you're right, technology wise.
2003. What was that? What year is this we passed away?
2011.
Oh, I got my first digital camera 2000.
Wait, 2011?
Yeah,
No,
no.
2000.
One.
Yeah,
2001.
yeah. Sorry.
Because I had my digital camera in 2003.
Yeah, yeah.
Three or
2001.
4 megapixel.
Yeah. Man, 2001.
22 years ago. 23 years. Yeah.
Wait, 9/11 was what year?
2001.
Oh, it says 2000.
It has
So
to be
that was 23 years this year.
that.
Yeah. Because 9/11 happened the following year.
Mm.
Yeah. Just a couple of days after his memorial.
Wow. So anything else you remember at that time? I guess. So for me, I knew I was in deep shit because like my dad was a strong dude.
Yeah.
And like you, my dad he tried to shield me.
Mm-hmm.
So here's just for myself.
Yeah.
My dad called me E.
Mm.
He said, "Don't tell Garrett."
Yeah.
So my wife knew, but I didn't know that he was in the hospital.
Yeah.
But I called his office and I go, "Why is he not picking up?" And then I tracked him down. And when I got there, he didn't go. He go, "How'd you find out?" He was trying to hide it from me.
Yeah.
But my point is, same thing as your father. I get it. Like a strong dad wants to protect you, but because he was strong, he still kind of like didn't allow me to understand the severity.
Yeah.
And then I remember that the moment like he couldn't even walk, I was like, "Oh my God, this
for real.
it's real." Like he could barely stand, and so I had to carry him like you.
Yeah.
But the difference is, I'm a grown man, so I was able to understand and see things more clearly. So I knew there was something. I mean, I was not disillusioned about
You
the
weren't
situation.
naive about
Yeah.
what could come.
And so, like
From then, how much time did you have?
6 months. So I got it. Obviously, the truth is I didn't know everything because the truth is he hid the diagnosis from me.
Okay.
He told his family member. He told my friend who's a nurse.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell me, and the diagnosis was 6 months. But
Yeah, see, actually, that too, I think he made sure that, like, we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I mean, part of it too was my dad, like I shared, he was so well known in the Korean Christian community.
people were probably coming to visit him.
People coming to visit him, people were praying for him, laying hands on, like, I really just thought, like, oh, well, he's a pastor, he loves God, he loves his family. Well, we have nothing to worry about. Like, why would he not be healed?
Yeah.
And then he passed.
So you remember the day you found out?
Dude, yeah, man.
What were you doing? Were you there?
I wish. And that's another thing that, like, if there's any like resentment, not even in like a strong resentment, like, oh, I can't believe that.
Yeah, I got
but,
it.
Like,
I wish if
I
I
wish
if I could
if
change
they
something.
knew me, if they knew that something was gonna happen.
You wish you were there.
Yeah, I don't want to be shielded.
So were you
from
in
that.
school?
So I'm at home with my little brother, and we're getting ready to go visit my dad at the hospital. So I'm getting him ready, and remember he's like 7 at the time, and I get this call, from my mom, and she's like,
She's at the hospital.
yeah, she's at the hospital, and she's like, Appa passed away, and I remember just a deep kind of everything falling to the pit of my stomach. But now I'm trying to be strong for my little brother, and I remember I took him in the car, I sat him in the back, he's strapped in, and I look at him in the rearview mirror, and I say, Taehyun, which is Paul's Korean name, and I say, Appa had to go to heaven a little early. And he's 7. This is Caleb, my son, is 6. This is only 1 year.
He's not
older
that.
than
He doesn't understand.
this, and but something about when I shared that with him, he started to cry, and he just said, "I don't want Appa to go so early." And I said, "I know, me too. But he's with God, and we know that God loves us, and that He'll be with us too." And so we drove, and when I got there, there were other pastors who were there, I guess, who had been praying for him and things and visiting, and they were crying, that he passed, and yeah, I mean, and that was that. And then they got the funeral arrangements and things ready. Another thing, I wish that they had asked me to do some kind of a eulogy or just share something, but they
You
just
think
had,
it's too traditional? Is that what it is?
I don't know about Korean tradition and things, but I think it was another shielding thing. Like they just wanted us to be able to grieve and not have to deal with more responsibility at the time. And so they asked one of his closest pastor friends to give a eulogy and share about his life.
I would assume your biggest regret is that you probably wish your younger brother knew your dad better. That probably would be.
I think about that all the time.
Well, not regret, but like that's probably what you.
What I would love for him.
Yeah.
I mean, because he just visited recently for Thanksgiving, and things come up, like, and when we talk about our dad, and he wishes that he had more time. He wishes that he had some memories. I think that like he felt like were really his own,
Absolutely.
if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I totally like. I talk about with Edward and Tommy here.
Yeah.
I say if you would have met my dad,
Yeah.
you'd laugh. Like the way I treat y'all, like he's even more of a character. And my dad would love y'all, and he would make fun of Tommy. He made fun of him for being Vietnamese, and he would
His
mess.
girls, when he got his girls,
It would tear him, and they would fall in love with my father, and you want the same. I guess you're saying you want the same for Paul. You don't want it to be vicariously through you. You want it directly.
See, and I share that sentiment. Honestly, it's like I even think about, man, like Esther's dad would have loved my dad. Like they would have hit it off and talked ministry. And I think about
Is
those
he a
guys all-
pastor?
Yeah, he's also a pastor.
Oh my God! Talk about spiritual
I know, right?
funneling.
A lot of pastors.
Oh my goodness!
And Esther, when I married her, before I
She's from
met
Hawaii.
her, yeah. So she was born in Korea, came to America when she was 3, lived in California, Hawaii, Seattle area. But she felt a call to be a pastor's wife before. I know, long before she met me, she felt she had conviction from God that she would one day marry a pastor.
Well, I would not go to school then. Pastor, you didn't have to go to school. You didn't want to be a pastor's wife.
No. But she felt actually like maybe she would support a pastor, like even financially.
In time.
But but I'm like, but honey, then why'd you go to the most expensive one? No, I'm just kidding. But those are the things, man. Like Esther would have loved my dad. Like our kids, I imagine them playing with, harabaji, which is grandpa.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, but I'll just say one thing that I'm very thankful for is Esther's dad is such a loving and gracious and good father too. And I remember, so if I could share, like during my ordination to become a reverend, they prayed over, they prayed over me, and my father-in-law, Esther's dad, prayed for me. But he really honored my dad. Like he knew like what it meant that he was praying for me. But
knew
that
that-
really should be my dad.
That's
too,
right.
That's there.
He knew that he was substituting for your father.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like with him, it's never like, oh, I have to do this because he married my daughter. Like he really treats me like his own son, and so I'm so thankful, like truly, that like Esther's dad is someone that I also, as an older pastor, like I can respect. And I've talked with him about church things too. But then also when I'm doing that, there's still a part of me that's like, man, I wish I could talk with my dad too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just
But
yeah.
he really, that's been a big blessing, Esther's parents. I know people and their in-laws, they have sometimes drama and stuff like that, but for
It'd be great. It'd be good that you get along with your father as a pastor.
Oh,
I mean, that could be really bad. A lot of theology fights over the dinner table. That would not be good.
no, but I'm very thankful for him and his perspective, and also my mom. My mom's here in Chicago right now, and Esther and her get along like too well sometimes. I'm like, so
Hey
I'm
man,
just
come on,
thankful.
man.
Yeah,
I
hey,
need someone on
you're
my
supposed to be
team.
exactly right. But
Don't worry.
so
May's mom's on my
I'm
team.
thankful. Oh, she
Hang in there, Garrett.
Maze.
Hang in there, Garrett. Just let her be.
Stop.
She does.
Stop, dude. Come
That's
on,
all
man.
good, man.
If May hears it, she's gonna be like,
No, it's
"Who
honor.
is this guy.
It's honoring her mother.
Yeah, but you honor your wife, dude.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Apologize.
Yeah.
We rotate. No, okay. No, actually, I side note. My dad just got along with May, and I get along with my mother-in-law. I'm pretty happy.
That's awesome.
And I was happy that my dad got along with my mother-in-law. But
But
It's
your
nice.
dad was very personable too, though. Right? I mean,
he could get angry though. He might not like you. It's either hit or miss.
Oh, so if you're on his bad side, it's peace out.
It's effing over.
Oh,
like
man.
he like,
you can't get back. You can't get back
no,
on his good side.
No, a lot of strong men are this way. I think probably pastors, same thing. Like, the Korean, there's like hot or cold, right?
It could be sometimes.
I mean, if God is working,
Yeah.
it's usually good. But if it's not, hit or miss.
Yeah.
All right. Any legacy now that you're a pastor and you go, like this to me, it's like a silly thing. It's like, I want to work out because, my dad worked out. Obviously, you wanted to be a pastor irregardless of your father. I think you had your own journey, but there's certainly that, like, you probably look back and go, I want to make sure, like, I'm not just me. I represent my father. Like, I want to fill his shoes.
Yeah.
Is that true?
So when I think about ministry, like that I'm in now, that I've been in the past, like even though my dad passed away before I went into full-time ministry, there's definitely a big part of me that remembers who my father was as a pastor. And I know you kind of talk sometimes like a little bit about like wearing different hats and things like that. But here, man, I'll be honest, like for me, it's very hard to compartmentalize ministry and just who I am, because the call to ministry I feel like is on my whole life, but it just happens to be that my vocation is full-time ministry.
I got hat. You just don't wear it during basketball. I got it. Everywhere except.
Yo, if you're hacking me, that hat's coming out.
I just want to say that you don't always integrate everything. That's all I'm trying to say. We all have
I'm trying.
We have some form of compartmentalization.
That's true. No,
Okay.
But that's actually been a challenge for me. In competition, Lord, remind me, I'm not a different person in competition. I still want to be someone who's serving.
Just don't introduce yourself to Pastor Josh when you play basketball.
If it goes, PJ, yo.
If it goes well, then you can say I'm Pastor Josh.
If I'm making all my,
but if it doesn't, I'm just Josh.
Yeah. But what I say that because, so when I think about my father and the legacy, I like to tell people about him when I can, when there's opportunities.
Of course, I know. That's why the sermons. I hear it.
And in the sermons, like when I share those things, it's because he has touched my life of ministry, like just through who he was as a father and as a pastor. So the one story that I always like to share is, it really is when his body was so broken down, like legitimately. And I don't know how I didn't think that there was something serious like that could happen. Because literally one time I remember clearly, and it's almost like I didn't think of it. I went in and they had him hooked up to morphine that he could.
The fact that he could still give a sermon with morphine, that's impressive.
And so it's like, how did I not see that my time with him was limited? But what I remember him was, it took his speech. So he's a pastor. He was very gifted in singing, speaking, preaching, all these things. But he couldn't talk because the cancer got so bad. But he still hummed his favorite hymns. And he still wanted to minister. You should have seen him when the church members had to literally lift him and put him on a seat in front of the congregation because he said, I'm still going to preach. I'm not even kidding.
No, I believe you.
And his body was so weak, but he would muster up the strength to speak the word of God.
I fully accept that because I had to prop my father up on his work chair.
Yeah.
And it's just a side note.
Yeah.
The only time my dad overslept was the day before he went into the hospital that he would never come out. So that's why he goes, oh, I'm late. I overslept. He was shocked. And I go, yeah, Dad, you never oversleep.
You know
And that's why I hate it when people are lazy. When they oversleep, I go, my father,
Yeah.
but that's the standard I think about. Just like you talk about your father. I get
So
it.
till the end, man. So that's kind of in Korean. There's words called 끝까지, which means until the end, right? And whether that's at 48 years old, whether that's at 56 years old, 100 years old,
Is this a spiritual term?
No, it's a term, but when you take it in the spiritual sense, it means until your last day, you serve, you follow God, you preach the gospel. And so that is something that I hope will be a legacy. And when I think about my kids, like Caleb, Chloe, it's like, would I want them to go into ministry in some way? I think, like you, like wanting to serve as a layperson, like I think those are good things. We need to have people who are serving in the church, whether you have a title or not, right? And so I will want them to always serve in the church. And then if God puts it on, Caleb's heart to be the next generation of pastor, praise God, But if not, zero pressure.
I'm not NBA, right?
I don't know. Shohei Ohtani with that.
600 million.
Yeah,
It's not like
700 million.
I know you want your son to play. Your son, he's supposed to be so tall. Why is he not doing? Why is he not mastering the
Dude,
fadeaway?
you better be pitching the ball and hitting the ball, all right?
I'm kidding. I know you have your dreams, obviously, and
No, so I want to lead him and guide him, but ultimately, wherever the Lord leads, I want him to follow.
so your legacies are your father had a passion that did not diminish to the end. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you, and
Yeah.
he wasn't a faker. It was
Yeah, I mean, if he was a faker, when his stomach is when his body's falling apart, he ain't gonna be humming no hymns. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he cursing. Give me that
he'll be
morphine.
cursing God. He'll be like, "Get me the heck out of here."
Which is, and even if he does, doesn't mean he's not Christian. It just
It just means that's how,
because that happens when you have cancer.
No, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But for him, it was try to smile whenever we came to visit, even when he was feeling weak. Humming hymns, like talking about God. Preaching till the very end. And I hope that that's what people will see in me. And I'm thankful to God. It really is by His grace. Like, really. Like, I mean, this is not me preaching or being Pastor Josh, but just no, really, but just being Josh. Like, like when we left New Jersey to come here, because I really felt like God was leading, me and our family to DC, to our church, at CCC. They had this going away service for us, in New Jersey, and I was just overwhelmed by like people's not only kindness and like thoughtfulness, but just like the words of affirmation and appreciation, like everything that they shared to me. It wasn't like, man, I did a really good job, but what it meant to me was God really used me in this place.
So you felt like it was a privilege.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It wasn't like they owed it. It was an honor.
Yeah, and I was so thankful for that because, it's good for pastors to receive affirmation, but here it was just like so overwhelming that I was like, this is not me. It's because God working in me, and through me. Yeah. So I can see that I'm leaving a legacy in that sense. If I'm living a good life in the sense that I'm being faithful to God and what He's called me to do, and I'm modeling that for Caleb and Chloe and how I treat Esther, how I treat them, how I treat church members and people in our family, then like my father's legacy does live on. But and this is maybe a little bit lame or cliche, but I think my dad would say when he passed away that more than his own legacy, like he really wants to leave a legacy of faith.
No, I don't think that's cliche.
And I think that's true of me too. Like I want Caleb and Chloe even more than I wanted them to have met my father and know him. Even more, I want them to know Jesus. And if that's the legacy I leave behind, and everything else fails for my plans or my hopes for them, but they know the Lord and believe in Him and have a relationship with Him. What else do I want?
It's good enough.
It's excellent. It's more than anything that I could hope for. And so that's kind of where, yeah, my heart is with legacy of my dad.
Timmy's, my doggy Timmy's here. Sorry, I saw that sound. Um, is there anything maybe as we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Anything did you want to share that I didn't bring up or prompt? Relating to your dad and you being as a pastor without getting into too many details.
Well, I'm thankful. Like I mean, that's the key word is just maybe because it was Thanksgiving was so recent, but I'm filled with a lot of gratitude for just I look back on my life. I will say one thing, that number 48 is kind of like on my radar almost because my dad passed away when he was 48. And so I do think about my life, like if I only had 8 more years.
Make it count. Right?
Yeah. But that's the thing is, shouldn't I live every day like that? Make it count every day? Like, am I wasting my time in this or that? When I could be, devoting, like showing my devotion to God through just ministry to people, counseling, taking care of my kids, my family, like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to look back and not have regret, Like, I wish I had done this. Like, no one looks back and says, like, oh, I wish I spent less time with my kids, or, oh, I wish I spent less time with my wife. Like, oh, I wish I didn't do so much for them. No, you always look back and you say,
I wish I played more fantasy football.
Yeah.
For Josh.
No, I do enough of that.
You do enough? Okay.
Yeah.
That's your sin.
No, that's my hobby.
Oh, sorry.
He's still passion hobby.
No, that's Josh. It's okay. But Pastor Josh, that's a sin. But Josh, you're good.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with fantasy.
No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, so that's one thing that I would say is just, I'm very thankful. I have a lot of gratitude. I mean, honestly, even like you asking me to do this, like I'm thankful. Like I consider this a privilege.
Of course, absolutely.
Because
you want to give glory to God, but also to your earthly dad.
I honor my dad, but also
Absolutely.
just because it's you and you asked me, I consider you a friend.
I also think it's nice for us to hear a different side of you that's not pastor, that you can just understand like it's Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I came with 3 points to give. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Let me share a thought from myself, and maybe we end it on that.
Yeah,
and you can
yeah.
tell me your thought.
Okay.
I do measure myself to my father in the same way you think about 48. You know what I often think about is like, do I love people enough to meet my dad's standard? Like what? Like let's just say my dad gave me 100 units of love, and I'm like, I have to get to 100 units output for me to honor my father. Sometimes I think this way, but then you know what the Bible says. 1 for 1. It's not the Bible's. It's 1 to 30, 60, 90, 120. And so, in my opinion, even though I do feel that in a selfish way, I've more than honored my father with all the different endeavors I've tried.
Sure.
Loving kids, doing gym stuff and opening gym. That I also feel on a more deeper level, I could never honor my dad enough, even if I feel like I've met his earthly standard. I never feel that enough is enough. So I maybe you feel the same way. You can never show your dad enough gratitude.
Yeah, so I think for me, I definitely have the same sentiment of I want to honor my father, and I do want to be faithful to the end. Like character that he showed me about himself and what he proved. That's the key, is he didn't just say stuff. Like he didn't just say love Jesus till the end. Like he did that, and he's with God now.
God, he embodied it.
Yeah, and I think by all means that's something that I want to do with my life. But I will say, like for me, it's not quite like I do it because my dad was that way. But I really feel like God has shown me through my father that this is what faithful living is. And so like even when I was talking about legacy, it's like there's such a close connection of who my dad was as a servant of God, like to who he was as a whole person. Like in my mind, I don't think he really wore different hats. Like the way that he was at church, it was the same way he was at home. Like in the sense that like he cracked jokes, he made people laugh, like he made people feel cared for and all these things.
So he had your congregation come over to watch fights?
Actually, that he just did on the couch,
I'm kidding with you.
No, but boxing is okay too. I imagine maybe in heaven there will be some kind of combat sports, but it's like
I'm kidding.
no one ever loses, because we all got glorified bodies. Like, can you win or can you lose?
I want to maximize that
Yeah.
body.
Oh yeah, dude. Hey, we'll see. Maybe you're close already. We'll see what our glorified. We'll see what our.
No, please let my brain be smarter.
We'll see what our glorified bodies look like. But yeah. So I would say, yeah, I'm with you that the sentiment of wanting to honor my father, whether I consciously am thinking it or not, is a part of my daily living. But I will say too is the grace with which he lived, like knowing God's grace is real. I know that when I fall short of that standard or even God's standard, truly I know that I'm covered in Christ. And that without that, trust me, you can't be a Christian, let alone a pastor, unless you really start understanding that like your performance can never measure up fully to who Christ is. You know what I mean? Like, so I really try to remember that, and it humbles me. But again, my dad, not saying he didn't have any flaws, but he really embodied a life of just really serving God and being surrendered. And that's how I want to live. I hope that's how I have lived. I feel that is how I have lived. Like, again, even going to New Jersey, coming here to DC, like all these things and decisions, like it's with just trusting God and going forward, Probably a lot like when he started a church, although starting a church is much harder than just going to an established church, for sure. Like,
of course,
a church.
Of course, I know.
Yeah,
you got to be the janitor.
You got to be everything.
You got to be the financer. You got to do everything.
Yeah. So
administrator, accountant, all this stuff.
You got to do everything. Well, hopefully you have a team, but he definitely
not when you start 101, not when you're not the very beginning,
and when you're like an immigrant, from a different place. But yeah. I'm thankful that we were able to talk. Like we've talked off, what do you call it, offline or whatever. Like when we're not talking on a video recording or audio recording, And I'm glad that we can share in. I mean, in one sense, it's sad that we share in like losing our dads, but there's also a camaraderie, right?
Well, there's something I say. Yeah. It's rare that people, and I'm going to use a word. Maybe you think it's wrong, but it's rare to find sons that are in love with their father. Like I adore my father, so I don't think many people can understand the sentiment that you and I share. And I mean, I think you and I are very close, and if you were even older, you'd probably feel even closer to your father when he passed. So I just know it's rare, and when I sense someone has the same sentiment as me, I do drawn to it. So. I mean, that's natural for me.
Yeah. We're also really good-looking, tall Asian men. As you look over the mirror.
Well. So
that also we have in common.
Yes. All right, with that being said, Josh being really good-looking and me being really good-looking, hey, thank you if you're interested. Thanks for tuning in.